How can somebody work with an acupuncturist to get to the root cause of different symptoms?
Yeah. So an acupuncturist, when you see them, I mean, we do a holistic diagnosis. Like I'll spend probably about 30 minutes with a patient in their initial consultation, and I would love to hear everything. Everything matters from their digestion to their mental health, stools, everything about emotions as well. And everything gives me a clear picture of what organs are imbalanced and where the root lies. And once that is figured out, then let's say the root cause is some imbalance in the spleen, which is really tied to our digestion. A lot of cascading
Mhm.
symptoms then would be healed. For example, their bloating, their loose stools, even their weight gain. A lot of it is tied to that spleen energy. So my treatment protocol would be to make sure that the spleen is strengthened.
So for people that don't understand what the
Mhm.
spleen is or where it is on the body, can you explain?
Yeah, absolutely. So the spleen is underneath the left rib cage. And the spleen, it's so funny because it's not an organ that's talked about a lot, uh, except in Chinese medicine. It's just that organ because it's the first organ that receives the nourishment in our food. And it's the organ that transports and transforms fluid and food. It moves what we say, the good fluid and food into the stomach and then into the small intestine to digest. And then the turbid and the bad food and fluid that we don't need into large intestine for us to pass. So it's kind of the center of how our whole body receives energy. And it's really, really important to nourish it.
Is there a season for nourishing the spleen?
So yes and no. So I mean, when we think about seasons, it's the earth element. Uh, and the color yellow. There's always like colors and elements associated with it. I always think you have to nourish the spleen every single day of the year because it's truly the first organ that receives everything and it loves warmth. We're warm-blooded creatures, right? And so to nourish it, we have to treat it gently. We can't really push the cold smoothies, the cold foods a lot because then it starts to weaken the digestive fire that essentially absorbs our nutrition.
And that's one thing that's fascinating because I studied traditional food and healing with foods, and it always comes back to warm foods. And if people are eating salads in traditional food preparation, you're supposed to make pressed salads in the wintertime or a warm salad. Things aren't supposed
Yes.
to be ice cold. And as we have watched health food culture over, I would say, the past 15 years, it pushes cold food. And
Mhm.
it's not pushing traditional food, it's pushing these modern concoctions that are made with ice or they're chilled overnight, which ultimately leads everyone that's trying to pursue that path to being unwell. I'm wondering, because you're in Los Angeles where smoothies are pushed a lot, chia seed bowls, acai bowls, all this cold healthy food is
Mhm.
really pushed. I'd love to know what you see from patients when they come to you with health issues, if they're somehow related to that kind of fake healthy food culture, I consider it.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's interesting because there's this understanding that there's a lot of nutrition in smoothies, a lot of nutrition in cold foods. But to be honest, your body can't absorb a lot of it because it's a shock to the system. But yes, I have seen a lot of patients in clinic that have a smoothie every morning that live on chia seed bowls, and they come in with such a cold presentation. And you can tell, they bloat easily. Their stools are inconsistent between, alternating constipation and loose stools. They'll, sometimes it affects the fertility as well because our womb likes to be cold. And so it's really also tied to women and our reproductive organs. And there's so many ways that a cold drink and especially consistent cold drinks can affect your body.